I know that you can thrive in motherhood and career simultaneously while building a healthy balance of self in the process. I recently learned of a study that stated that working mothers today spend more time focusing on their children than stay-at-home moms did in the 1960s. Okay, go us. Many of us choose motherhood and career, like myself, for example. First off, I'm a cool mom. See? I don't even shy away from any questions like, which kid is my favorite? I'll tell you which one. It's this one. She's my favorite. Don't worry. She's an only child. And like for many of you, 2020 greatly upped the ante of motherhood for me. I gained a new title. I became a full-time kindergarten teacher. And I do mean teaching. Like, we go in. You can see. Experiments and everything. Lots of mess. And in terms of my career, as a producer, on-camera talent, MC, and a host, I do a lot of talking like this, very blessed to do that. My career has kept me on a high. That is Shaq, and it's way higher than it looks. I am Secret Service approved. You'd be surprised how deep into your file the government goes just for you to produce a commercial with former President Jimmy Carter. And after all of that is said and done, there's one thing that I can say for certain, and that is that I am an expert. That's a big statement. I'm an expert, and so are you. According to Malcolm Gladwell, it takes 10,000 hours to become a master or an expert at something. So according to motherhood and parenting, that means you're an expert by the time your child is about a year and 2 months old. But that does include time sleeping. Yes, it does. But if you've ever had nightmares about that I can do it myself phase, and you get nightmares about this, orange juice spilled on the floor, then you know it affects you even in your sleep. As humans, our primary way of interacting with the world is through storytelling. I show you this picture, and you've already started to come up with a scenario in your mind of what's going on here without even knowing what's going on. That's because life is a story, and you are the hero of your own personal story. Well, I'm here to tell you about a truth, and that is that you create the narrative. When my daughter was around 3 years old, I was telling her a bedtime story, and we got to this place in the story that I knew I couldn't share with her. I don't know if you guys have ever wondered, but have you ever realized that children's stories are kind of dark sometimes? It's weird. I knew I couldn't share with her, so what did I do in that moment? A whole new magical world came from my mind of what my daughter was seeing according to what she saw on the page. And to her delight, I created a narrative that she thought made sense. So what did I do in that moment? I saved the day, or at least the night, because we didn't have any nightmares that night, which is a major plus for us parents, as we all know. I realized in that moment we can intentionally shape our everyday lives through our own storytelling. In her TED Talk, Laura Gottlieb states, "The way we narrate our lives shapes what we become. If we change our stories, we change our lives." So there's a lot of power in storytelling, right? And it all actually starts here. In our minds, our inner thoughts create this narrative. How many of us in the audience have ever lied to ourselves? How many of you have ever lied? Actually, don't raise your hands. Don't tell on yourselves. I know it's most of us in here. We've all lied to ourselves. You know, something simple, like you allow yourself to believe something is one way when truly you know it's not. In that moment, you are creating the narrative. And although that might be a bad example, if we can do it then for a bad thing, so deviously, why can't we do it for good? So if we have the power to create our own narrative, why wouldn't we tell a story of our success? It starts off with a little thing I call shift your perspective. As often as possible, assume an attitude of gratitude. I would be remiss if I didn't take this moment to greatly thank my village and to stress to you how important it is to have a village, no matter whom or how many have your village. I had an intense few weeks of work, and in the span of 3 weeks, I traveled to 6 different cities. And although I knew it was going to be very challenging for my family to accommodate, I also greatly understood that it was a blessing. I get to do what I love. So in that moment, I thought about the fact that it was a blessing, and I used that when I approach my husband. Instead of coming to him with angst or shame like I may have had in the past, I said, look, baby, this is going to be a hectic few weeks. I know it, but we got this. We can do this, and it will be worth it. And that in turn affected how he responded to me and how we then carried out those next few weeks. Controlling the narrative also greatly affects your children. I had to be very cautious about how I approached my daughter and how I spoke about work in front of her. One day, after momming all day and teaching all day, I was really tired. And I said, all right, baby, now mommy has to go to work. And she said, Mommy, she looked at me so sweetly, just like this. And she said, Mommy, if you don't want to go to work, then why do you leave me to do so? Ugh, right in my heart, right? From the mouth of babes. And I shifted my focus to gratitude. And I thought about the fact of how great it is to be able to do what I love and stand up here and be talking to you guys today. And then I focused on that gratitude and I shared that narrative with her. And in sharing that narrative with her, it then made shifting into my second shift of the day a little easier. And now my sweet girl actually does work on her own that she loves to do. There is power in storytelling, and we are the ones who create the narrative. Have you ever told a white lie, and then lo and behold, it comes true? That is called speaking it into existence. I just told you you create the narrative, so whatever you say goes. But don't worry, because karma's got your back. Speaking things into existence also sets expectations, and setting expectations is a great management tool for emotions. What I recommend doing is to set the bar low by under-promising and then over-delivering. Journeying through motherhood has really taught me a lot. One of the main things is how quickly time passes. Nothing like watching your children grow up to see how quickly time passes. Well, one thing I'll definitely tell you to do is to outsource and prioritize. Prioritize and then be flexible. Prioritizing helps me to gain my confidence back. The reason is because I win every day in one way or another. Some days I am on fire at work. I'm up here talking to y'all are laughing, you're interacting with me like you're doing right now, and I'm having a good old time. And then time with my family may be a little less. That's still a win, because then the next day I'm going to prioritize time with my family. Both of those days are an absolute win. We create the narrative. Choose to be upset a little less. Choose to yell a little less, especially when it comes to children. That's the big hard one there. And don't allow self-guilt or self-critique to get in the way of things, because guilt skews the narrative. And remember, we are the ones who are creating it. Last but not least, we must not forget about self. I love me. I love me some me. I love me. Thank you. Thank you. I've never professed that in front of a crowd before, but I liked it, so I might do it again. That's a reward that I promised myself I would get up here and do. Reward yourself as often as possible. Remember, you create the narrative, and I already told you you're an expert, so get up here and shout it every time you can. Give yourself little things to look forward to throughout the day, even if it's something as simple as watching TV or reading a book or staring into space. Just give yourself those little moments, those little compliments. So, how can you become the most perfect, career-oriented, number one mama on the planet? I'm still working on it. Yes, I am. But in the meantime, appreciate all of the great things that you have and that you do well. At the end of the day, it might not look how you originally planned it, but don't let that deceive you. Because remember, you create the narrative. Thank you.